three. The first is RS 3208, dealing with the blueprint for literacy. Did you want them one at a time or all three, sir?
You can just do all three. Well, let's, without objection, we'll accept that. Seeing none, let's accept it.
Second is RS 3489, dealing with Keisha's participation of homeschool students.
Without objection, we'll accept that one.
Final one is RS 3662, dealing with Keisha transfers.
Without objection, we'll accept that one. Senator Owens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would request for introduction RS 3478. This is an act concerning child care subsidy related to the Kansas Department of Children and Families on behalf of Jessica Lucas.
Without objection, accept that one. Okay, we're going to move on now to continuation on our hearing. I know a couple of you have talked to me about some different ideas. I guess we'll start over here again. Senator Peterson's online. Senator Peterson, did you have anything?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Senator Alley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have anything to add other than I think that any of these provisos that we do submit, we are looking for consideration. We ought to have a fiscal note attached to that so we know what they actually are going to cost the state or save the state in the future. And then the last thing is policy. If we're adding policy by proviso, I think that needs to be sent back to the committee and let the committees that deal with that on a daily basis deal with that policy change and not do it in here during a budget administration. Thank you.
Any comments on Senator Alley's? Senator Petty?
I'll ditto that.
Okay, is Senator Peck here? Okay, we'll skip over him. Senator Clamp.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. They're working on some language for me, so I'd like to hold if you don't.
Okay.
Thank you.
Senator Fagg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have anything at this time.
Okay. And I know Senator Cluse is waiting on some language. Do you want to do any of yours, or you just want to wait? Yeah. Okay. Senator Petty, do you have any?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I was just, as I was looking over the budget, I wondered if we had any language in the budget concerning executive pay. Are we going to deal with that in this full committee?
We do not have anything at this time for pay.
I don't do.
No, we do not. And we're looking at a couple of options. I haven't got that put together yet, but we'll have something. We won't be today, but we're going to have to meet at least one more time before we kick the bill out anyway. Ideally for staff is to get the bill out either Wednesday or Thursday. That gives them the weekend to work on it. And then they're off on Friday and Monday, so it gives them plenty of time to get the bill put together.
So are we, then you're saying are we meeting tomorrow and Wednesday?
I didn't say that. I said we will meet for sure one more time.
Thank you.
Yes. Senator Erickson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Last week, I brought a proviso regarding the Department of Commerce and STAR bonds not implementing any new projects if a STAR bond is paid off early in that existing district without explicit permission. I do have some clarifying language. The intent was not to affect any existing projects. It's just projects going forward. So we do have some projects that were playing by the rules when the rules were implemented. And this is just saying going forward. So this won't affect projects that are already in the works. And this is the language, if you look at the end, the last few sentences, clarifying that if there are projects already in the works, those aren't affected by this. This will just be for any new STAR bonds going forward. So that is my clarification on this proviso, and I can move it if you so wish, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead and make your motion.
I move that we accept this proviso with the clarifying language.
Second by Senator Fagg. Questions and discussion on the proviso. Senator Petty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And so I do see, I think that you're referring to the last two sentences of this proviso that clarify that nothing that's included here would have any impact on those that are either the completion of them or phase of those projects, and they would remain under their current standards for their STAR bond project. Would that be correct?
Senator Erickson.
Yes, that's correct. I mean, they are playing by the rules that were established at the time they started these projects, so we do not want to change the rules midstream. It would just be for new projects going forward. That's correct.
Senator Petty.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Other questions for Senator Erickson? Senator Clem.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator. I was pondering this because last week I had asked the question, does this affect any of the current STAR bonds that are in motion? And it turns out that it did affect the Wichita Phase 3, I think, from how I understand it. And respectfully, where I would like to just kind of take the conversation, if we're allowed, is to look at taking this back to committee where we would actually have proponent and opponent conversations to really understand this. And it's a piece of policy that I feel like is meant to be in a committee where it gets a robust conversation. So when it comes out of there, that it's ready for prime time. And I feel like just, even though the intent was great, I do 100% feel guardrails and are needed in the STAR bond legislation. So I would agree with you on that. I'm not sure sitting here in a budget committee, we should be having this conversation. So I would respectfully look to move this back to, make a motion to move this back to committee.
Okay, we have a substitute motion. Do we have a second? Senator Cluse seconds. Questions and discussion? Senator Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I agree. I agree with the senator. Unfortunately, that's not how business gets done. I think we could do the same thing for every proviso that's been brought before this committee. They should all go through the committee process. Agree 100%. But if we're going to do that, then let's be consistent, and I'll make a universal motion to strip every proviso that's been brought that hasn't gone through the committee process and send it back to committee, because I agree, that's how the process should be. But that's not how, I don't think it's fair to pull out one and say send it back without sending every one of the other ones back. So with that, I will be opposing this unless we make that rule consistent for every single proviso that's been brought. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Other discussion? Senator Peck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize, having just arrived. I would probably be a no, but I want to know what's going on before I'm a no. Procedurally, was there a motion, then this is a substitute motion? Okay,
Correct.
We can't have another substitute motion. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, so we're dealing with the substitute motion right now. And did you get a copy of the proviso? Okay. So any other questions or discussions, Senator Petty?
Well, I think, earlier on, Senator Alley made comments about this very thing, about going through the committee process. I do think this amendment, as it's been changed, does lend itself to going back to committee because it doesn't deal with any current projects that are approved STAR bond projects, if I understand it correctly. And so it seems that it would be appropriate to be dealt with in the Commerce Committee because we know that Star bonds legislation has been fluid. It's changed many times since it was first passed in, I think, 1999 or 2000. So this wouldn't be the first change made to Star bonds. So I think that the substitute motion is appropriate, that this go back and be worked in committee.
Other questions, statements? Seeing none, all in favor, aye. Opposed? No. Motion carries. Do you have any other, Senator Erickson?
Well, I do. Then, in the spirit and being consistent, Mr. Chair, I make a motion we send every proviso that's been brought before this committee that has not gone through the committee process be sent back to committee for full vetting, full transparency. That's my motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Senator Peck, seconds. Discussion on sending all the provisos. Senator Alley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the questions I have on this is, are we talking about the, where we add dollars, or are we talking about where we adding policy?
Senator Erickson.
I would say any of the provisos, period. We have a budget committee that dollars can be brought forward during our regular Ways and Means Committee meetings. So I think it's any last-minute proviso that has not gone through the committee process should be vetted through committee. I agree with that. I think that's the best budget practice.
Senator Alley, do you have anything else?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If that was the case, do we need provisos?
Senator Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I remember when we started this new budget process, leadership made it very clear. In fact, I believe that there was a warning to lobbyists saying, do not bring provisos. We're not doing any more provisos. Yet here we are, business as usual. So either we're going to get serious about this or we're not. But what I do believe happens is some folks have figured out they can simply get a couple people on Ways and Means to bring a proviso at the end of session when we're all busy wanting to get this budget kicked out, instead of going through the committee process where it should be. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Clem.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I do agree with my senator as well with her comments about our approach on trying to do all of this in budget. I would say that where I feel we should limit this is on a policy conversation. When we're adapting policy and we have a robust team in committee that should be able to handle these, I do feel that that is where we should draw the initial line, but I do feel there's a further broader conversation around provisos in general. I don't know if today's the day to make that, but I do agree with limiting it to around policy.
Other questions? Senator Clues.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not a question, just kind of following up where I see what Senator Erickson is saying in this. I think the biggest thing is these adjustments, and we have been making adjustments on the procedure and the way we've been doing things. But timing-wise and practical for where we are at right now, that's what you come into. But maybe looking into next year, we could see something adjusted more. I just feel like straight across the board, that's going to be very challenging to where we're at. But I do think we have to consider some of the practical motions and provisos that it may need to have a deeper conversation. A lot of these aren't that deep, so that's just my thought.
Senator Petty.
Well, I think that part of the context here would be the fact that some of the subcommittees, and I'll just use Human Service because that's the one I sat on, or one of them that I sat on, made a decision that, this body as a whole would be looking at those recommendations. And so a lot of things were not put in the subcommittee, but they were considered by this body. So it would make it a little bit difficult if we put this kind of proviso in place after that was the position of the subcommittee to have that deeper conversation when it came to human services within this whole body. So I would not see how that could work then.
Other questions? Senator Erickson.
Mr. Chair, I'm listening to my colleagues, and I'm happy at this point with the understanding that we do have those in-depth conversations. I'll amend my motion to say only those dealing with policy at this point, with understanding that I would like to have this conversation because we're not just adjusting, we are adding hundreds of millions of dollars without thorough conversation. So I will make an adjustment to my motion, Mr. Chair.
Okay, and second okay with that, or Senator Clem seconded it? Senator Peck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know now we have a different motion than what I had raised my hand for, but for clarification, a proviso, sometimes we have motions or amendments we had a balloon that were just spending and not really changes in policy. Would those be considered a proviso? I guess I'm thinking, Mr. Chairman, if some of those would not be considered a proviso, I still prefer the original motion because I'm not certain that this motion covers where we spend any money. So I'm seeking clarification.
Well, I'll try to clarify it. I'm not sure I can because it is fairly complicated, but for instance, the proviso you brought to make sure we took care of our veterans, that included some funding. And so I think what's being said is them type provisos are what we're looking at, where we added things that maybe the committee didn't and maybe the whole committee looked at. And so that's what we're talking about, proviso with funding, not just policy without any funding tied to it, as I believe is what we were doing. Does anyone else have a better explanation? Senator Peck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what you just said, was that the intent of the maker of the motion? I guess would be my question. Because I could see this going three different ways. Just policy, just what was presented earlier. Just this. That doesn't have any spending in it as such.
Policy, correct.
Right. And then we have some that have some money and policy, and then some are just money. I would consider them just money. So I'm trying to figure how far we're going. Of course, for me, I'm all in, whole hog. We've spent way too much money in this committee. I'd like to back up, but that's a whole nother topic. So I guess I'm just seeking to make certain that when I vote on this motion, I know what I'm voting on. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Erickson, would you like to explain your motion again?
I will explain my intent. If there's policy in a proviso, even if there's money attached, that needs to go back to committee. If it's solely at this point, I'm with you. I think they all need to go back. But if it makes this, a little bit more palatable, then if it's just dollar amounts, that is not part of my intent on this motion.
So Senator Erickson, my example that Senator Peck had offered the proviso for the veterans, and that included money. Would you say that that one is okay?
If there's policy associated with it, I think the policy part is that what needs to go back to committee.
Well, I don't know, you know, there was a lot of provisos at our last meeting. And I don't know, other than going through each one individually and the committee saying, well, this one had policy, this one didn't. I don't know. I'm not sure how we would handle that. Senator Cluse.
So we're on a motion, we have a second, we're still having conversation. Am I
Correct.
back up? Okay. So can we, I mean, I don't even know what that all looks like, 100%, and what's all that entails. So is there a way that we can delay this, or can't make another?
Right. Senator Clamp.
My understanding of the original motion was policy. So if it has funding associated with it, I would have to withdraw my second. I do feel it's a policy, step one is a policy conversation.
Senator Owens.
If I might, Mr. Chairman, since it was made clear that we're going to be bringing this, we're going to be having committee again sometime this week. And I do not believe we're on a substitute motion. I believe we're on an amended motion, but not a substitute. I would make a substitute motion that we table this motion and get something in writing from the maker of the motion for consideration at our next meeting.
Okay, so substitute motion. Do we have a second by Senator Cluse? Any questions or discussion on what we're doing? Senator Erickson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I would just like, and as I work on this, I'm happy to do that because I do think there's confusion. Happy to do that. I would submit that the proviso that just was sent back to committee that I had for star bonds does have financial implications in it. There is a money component to it. It may not have a dollar amount specified in the proviso, but make no mistake, it does have money associated with it when you're capturing sales tax and revenue. So I just want to be clear, and all I'm seeking is consistency. All I want is consistency and the best budget policy. So I'll be happy to work on that, and in the spirit of moving this meeting along, I'll support that.
Okay, any other discussion? Senator Hosher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do appreciate that new motion. I would caution that, we have to think about the fact that not all provisos are equal in terms of how we're assessing these. Not all policy is equal in terms of this broad, brushstroke in terms of how these are evaluated. And, this is the day in terms of if there are certain ones that we want to evaluate or back away from to do that. So like I said, that's my caution, that we don't apply this broad stroke in terms of all of them get pulled or move a certain direction. So like I said, that's my biggest concern as we move forward. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Senator Petty.
Well, I actually thought I supported the policy or the original, and I thought a motion, or the second, a substitute motion to dealing with policy. But as I heard the maker of the first motion, Senator Erickson, speak to the fact, I guess in some ways, it could, almost anybody could interpret that everything has a certain dollar amount attached to it. So that would end up being every proviso. In fact, I thought I have all the provisos here in my folder, and I was just going through. Lots of them are dollar amounts directly, but like this one, involuntary discharging report. It doesn't look like it has a dollar amount attached to it directly, but it could be considered by someone that it does have a dollar. So I think that it's very difficult if this becomes very difficult to not say that there isn't monetary impact on almost anything that we do when it comes to decisions that are made here.
Other questions or comments? Senator Alley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is interesting discussion. It goes a long ways, goes both ways. We've heard it go one way and heard the other. One of the things that I think would clarify this would be if you bring a proviso, you have a financial note attached to that proviso that says this is what it cost. If there is just policy in the proviso, it will say that. But if there is dollars amount that's going to affect our budget, that would also be in the proviso. So I think if we're going to bring a proviso, let's bring a financial statement with it, something prepared by staff, and that tells us actually what we're going to spend if we do approve that proviso.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Senator Alley, do you want to make a motion on your idea, or?
Mr. Chairman, if you will accept a conceptual idea, motion, make a motion that if we bring a proviso, they must have a financial statement, what it's going to cost to implement this, included with your proviso.
So all the provisos that we're discussing right now are
From this moment forward.
going forward? Okay, all right. We have a motion then. Do we have a second? Seeing none, I guess we'll have to discuss that a different day. Okay, committee, we were, Senator Erickson, did you have any other suggestions?
Mr. Chair, I do, but if you will allow me to wait until after we settle what we can bring proviso or not, then I think that would provide some clarification if I can just reserve my time for that.
Okay. Senator Owens.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I actually have two, neither of which are written, but they're pretty straightforward. And I realize, again, in the interest of timing, I've definitely been putting the revisers and research through their paces over the weekend, and even they deserve a break. You know, as I'm sitting here reviewing our current state of our budget, we kind of came into this year looking to cut somewhere around 150 to 200 million. As of today, in Senate Ways and Means, we're adding about 78 million to the budget. So instead of cutting, we're adding about $78 million to the budget. And so at the request of leadership, we as budget chairman were asked to go back and see where we might be able to make some cuts and trim some things back. And so that is what I have done. I realize that some of these may not be very popular, but at the same time, they do get us closer and a little bit further down in terms of our budget add-on request. And so with that, Mr. Chairman, I have a motion to make that does a total of 5 cuts. We certainly can't take them up individually if you would prefer, or we can look at them globally. So I'll just say them globally, and that way everybody can write them down really quick for consideration. Because I had not had an opportunity to get these done by staff.
Okay,
Happy that-
Senator Owens, do them one at a time, please.
Okay. So we had a motion to, motion to increase the brain injury waiver by 6.9 million state general fund, 17 million all funds. I would propose that we reduce that number by $3,914,393 and bring that to a $3 million increase instead of a $6.9 million increase. If you want to do them one at a time, I'll make that motion.
Well, yeah, okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Senator Clem, seconds. Okay, discussion. Senator Petty.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would suggest that we get this list of 5 areas, and then we discuss this list of 5 areas before we start making a cut in one specific waiver. I'm more interested in what they are overall. And, you know, I mean, I think if we start making motions here, that we should have I love this discussion about whether there's funding involved or whether it's just language, but also, why can't we have them in writing? So if they're, you know, if we're making decisions here that have big impacts, so let's look at the whole list, not just one at a time.
Well, I think it was explained that he wasn't able to get all this done. And, you know, I guess we can talk about them and push them off till the next meeting. If we don't have them in writing, I don't know, a lot of these are probably not in writing, and I don't know. I think this one's pretty straight and forward. Either you're in favor of lowering this or you're not.
So we have other waivers. I'm just saying, why not have all 5 waivers to look at? We have
Well,
none of them in writing.
I think we're going to hear them all. It's just, it's not in writing. He did the very first one here. I said do them one at a time because I don't think we should vote on all 5 of them at once. Senator Cluse.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Maybe a suggestion would be go through each one and then so we have a scope of what the dollars amount is and then come back and vote individually. I know it's going to take a little more time, but I think it would make more sense to comprehend where he's going because I have no clue where he's going.
Okay, let's do that then. Well,
I'm happy to do that, Mr. Chairman, and maybe at the same time, I did email that to Dylan as well as to everybody on the committee. So anybody can kind of see the list that I'm working on if they want to pull it up on their email. And then maybe Dylan or staff can go ahead and get that printed out. And again, I apologize. I prefer to have things in writing myself, but just due to the timing of some of these decisions and some of these thoughts that I've kind of worked on throughout the weekend into the early morning, there just wasn't enough time. And so I'll go back to the first motion was reduce the brain injury waiver, and these are additions, so we're not taking away. These are additional increases to these waivers, just so we're clear that we're passed in the budget. Would have taken the brain injury waiver from 6.9 down to 3. It would take the community support waiver from 7.3 and, excuse me, and cut that one in half. So instead of the 7.3, it would reduce it by 3.8. We would reduce the TA waiver, which was a little over 3 million. We would reduce that down by about 500,000. The other item is, again, just looking at some of these things, and these are just suggestions for the committee's consideration. Removing the CCBHC planning grants in the amount of 4 million. And reducing the Medicaid capacity. That had to do with the additions to our nursing home. That was a $20 a day addition, moving that down to a $15 a day addition. And so all of those reductions, as you can see again, very straightforward, all of those reductions, if they were adopted, would reduce SGF spending by about 19.6 million. Again, these are reductions from the original increases. These are all still allowing increases in there for all of these, excluding that CCBHC planning grant. That would be eliminating that 4 million CCBHC planning grant. That was originally designed for our CMHCs to convert to CCBHCs, all of which have already converted. However, there are other organizations in this space that utilize those grants and look towards possibly becoming a CCBHC. And yes, if you will pass that out, that would be great. See, I talked long enough for them to get this printed. And so that would eliminate those planning grants to 0 for this year. And my second motion is down below there, but it's not here yet, so ignore that last sentence. We'll talk about that one next. So I'm happy to make a motion to go through those one by one, or to do them globally, however the committee would like to approach this. Again, this is not a fun part of the budget process. Each one of these are incredibly, incredibly important. The people that they serve are incredibly important. However, we are deficit spending, and we're going to deficit spend ourselves into a hole in just a very few years. And that means that we have got to, on this committee, make some difficult decisions. I only have insight onto the budgets that my committee worked, and so I can't see the other budget committees where they might be able to also pare down their budgets. So I just focused on the budgets that I had control of, Mr. Chairman.
I don't know, committee, you want to vote on the group or you want to do individual? What's the consensus?
How about I make a motion for the individual, or for the entire group, Mr. Chairman? If that fails, then we can take them one by one.
Okay,
So I'll make a motion that we make those reductions as have been passed out in front of you, and I'll move that motion.
we have a motion, we have a second. Senator Peck seconds. Discussion. Senator Clint?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Senator Owens. So one of the things, just to remind the group here, one of the things we had talked about when we were going through this in the subcommittee was the impact or the need for the wages at the expense of some of the waiver increases. So there was some discussion around that, and I felt like we erred on the side of the expense side and providing level 1, level 2, and IDD, the increases that are significant because we have waivers that are not being filled today that could be, but we don't have enough people to be able to service those folks that would come in. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there as a learning from our exercise, and if you want to add anything to that, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah.
Senator Owens?
Yeah, if I might, Mr. Chairman, you'll see that little blank space right below there on that sheet that was handed out. That originally had some cuts to that 10%, but after considering exactly what Senator Klimp had mentioned, I removed that piece to ensure that that 10% remained in there, because I agree that I think is priority one, are the people that in those employment and those reimbursement rates. And so I felt that it was prudent to just cut back on some of the waivers.
Other questions, Senator Peck?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I could get or if the committee could get the dollar amount, because this says reduced by, so we're still increasing, but we're increasing at a reduced level. So, for example, the brain injury originally, he said would push it down to an even 3 million, which I'll write that down if that is correct, but I was curious as to what the remaining increase will be if we can have that.
Senator Owens?
I have those, Mr. Chairman, if you want to grab your pens. And again, apologize. Late nights and early mornings trying to make some of these decisions. So on the community support waiver, that cuts it to a $3.5 million increase. On the technology-assisted waiver, that cuts it to a $2.5 million increase. Again, that eliminates the CCBAC planning grants. And then the Medicaid capacity at $15 per day. Let's see, that was 29.3 million. Let me do some math in my head, less 7.3 million. I believe that comes up to roughly 22 million. So I can pull out my calculator for that one. Didn't have that one written down. Yeah, 21 or roughly 22 million, 21,930. So 22 million is still the increase on the Medicaid capacity at $15 per day.
And that brain injury one, Senator Owens?
The brain injury, that brought that down to 3 million even.
So these are all in addition to what they had last year?
Correct. These are all in addition to, or for example, on the waivers, it's all in addition to. On the Medicaid capacity, I want to be clear, in the past, that has been a $20 add-on. And that was confirmed that that $20 add-on did start during COVID. Originally, there was some confusion, but after meeting with Dylan and digging into this, we started this $20 add-on during COVID with federal dollars. As this has progressed, we have left it at a $20 add-on. Currently, the House has $10 add-on. I felt that moving it to $15 was at least maybe a step in the right direction because we have moved this over the last 2 years to be a state general fund spend from an ARPA dollar spend.
Senator Cluse.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator, the TA, what was that increase then after the 523 is off?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Then that makes it still, we had in our budget $3,023,000. This reduces that to $2.5 million. So there's still $2.5 million, and these are state general fund. All of them have corresponding all funds increases for the waivers.
Senator Cluse.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And then, Senator, you mentioned something concerning the House. Is all these lining up with them or different? I missed that statement.
No,
Senator Owens.
thank you, and I apologize for that. I only made that statement because most of these don't align up with the House at all. The only one that I made the statement on was that very last one, the Medicaid capacity. That is a $20 a day add-on to our nursing facilities, our nursing homes, of which I'm an incredibly strong supporter of the work that they do and the value that they add and how they take care of our loved ones. But again, that is an SGF spend. They reduced theirs down to $10 a day. And so they are actually about, I'm looking up my chart here. They're actually $15 million less than we are. So this moves us to $15 a day, which is only $7 million less than where we are. Still leaves us above the House in that position.
Senator Cluse.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. And so one more follow-up then. So I understand what you said on that one. What about the other ones? Or did you just come up with these?
Senator Owens.
Fair question. And so I'm more than happy to go through these one by one. And what I had legislative research do for me before the weekend in anticipation of having to have some of these difficult conversations is prepare a rather large spreadsheet for me that gave me the special committees position, House Appropriations position, and Senate Ways and Means position. I'm more than happy to disseminate that to the committee as well via email. But I can tell you that as it relates to, I'll just start at the top when the brain injury waiver, the House still has the higher position at 6.9. We reduced ours to the 3. The next one down on the community support waiver, the House had 0. We had the full 7.3, which we reduced to 3.5. Or this motion would reduce to 3.5, let me be clear. But the House had 0 on that one. The technology assisted waiver, the House's position is 2.7. And this puts our position at 2.5. So a little bit of comparison, some above, some below. Again, then the next one down on the CCBHC planning grants, the House still has the $4 million in theirs. And this would reduce our position to 0. And then finally, the $15 per day, we're currently at $20 per day, which is $29 million. They're at $15 million. And this proposal attempts to cut our position to be basically half. So we would still be about $7 million above their position on that. Again, not a fun thing to have to work through, but we've got a lot of work to do on this budget still.
Senator Cluse.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for that feedback. That's helpful. Thank you.
Other questions? Senator Peck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I seconded the motion because I saw it as a cut. But this can be looked at, each legislator can look at it however they want. We're still looking at an increase of $31 million. However, from my perspective, we're looking at a $19.6 million cut. Because this committee had already decided to spend that, in round numbers, $50 million more. So I guess the reason I say that, whether you like a cut or not, I do, you're still supporting an increase in spending. And so the motion has put me in an uncomfortable place. But I again look at it because the fact the committee has already weighed in on the $50 million cut, saying, okay, let's cut that $50 million down to 31. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Other questions or comments? Senator Petty.
Well, I must say, I have appreciate the chair of the subcommittee looking at ways to, you know, to reduce our state expenditures. However, I think we do have to keep in mind that as we look at whether it's the brain injury waiver, or the community support waiver, or the tech assistant waiver, that we will, particularly with the brain injury waiver, we are potentially setting ourselves up to have waiting lists. And that in itself carries cost with it. So I think it's important to keep that point in mind as we look at these as well.
Other questions, Senator Erickson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the comments, and I appreciate the chair of the subcommittee bringing this forward. A reduction in an increase is not a cut. Again, a reduction in an increase is not a cut. They're still getting more money than they were previously. So it's how it's going to be framed. We're going to say, well, we're cutting this, and we're not. We're still looking at an increase. But my concern, and I'm going to support this, but my concern is brain injury waiver, community support waiver, some of these things, these are some of our most vulnerable populations. And so if we were going to make everyone share in a reduction of an increase, I think it would be fair. However, when we still have a $50 million loan to a private company that is going to cost our state $1 million a year in foregone interest, I have a problem keeping that whole and reducing our most vulnerable. That's a problem for me. Everyone should be sharing in it, not just our most vulnerable. So I appreciate the chair of the subcommittee doing what he can. I'm going to challenge everyone else to look at the budgets that they oversaw and do the same thing. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Other questions or comments? Senator Owens.
I might just close with this, and I do appreciate that. You know, I could look at, I don't know, the education increase for this year, I think, was somewhere around $160 million. We had significant increases in higher education. We had significant increases in many other areas. However, I don't feel that I have enough knowledge to reach into the budgets of other chairmen of subcommittees and say at this time that you weren't justified in the decision that you made to do what you did with your budget, or that your committee did with their budget, and to make those cuts. And so along with Senator Erickson, I would challenge each chairman of their committee to do the very same thing, because this is not easy. Matter of fact, I would argue that this is more important than another $150 million increase in K-12 or additional increases in loans as were discussed, or other things. But I can only control the things that I have the knowledge of and the control over. And so I'll go ahead and close with that and move the motion.
Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Senator Owens, did you have any others?
I do have one more, Mr. Chairman, on that same piece of paper. And I apologize, there's part of a sentence because I started to write out my thoughts because I wasn't planning on sharing this, but I'm perfectly fine doing so. There was a motion that was made that I think that we need to reconsider, and that motion had to do with increasing the cap from 8 million to 16 million on the lottery operating fund to the Clubhouse Model Program fund. So a little bit of history on this before I make my motion. Back in 2024, when we passed the legislation, the STAR bond, and I say we, I've been clear that I didn't vote for this, but it was voted on by the legislature and passed, the STAR bond proposal for the Chiefs and the Royals. We made a significant change to where our lottery money goes, and we may or may not have known it. I assure you I didn't know it till I sat down with the chairman of this subcommittee and actually got into the details. Because what we did is ultimately, instead of saying that the end of the river with lottery revenues, and if you'll recall, this was handed out, right? Everybody remembers this. The end of the stream after all of these pullouts used to be the state general fund. That's not the case anymore. After all of these pullouts, the state general fund gets a piece, and the end of the stream is now the Attracting Professional Sports to Kansas Fund. So by removing or by changing this cap from 8 to 16 million, we are directly decreasing the current conversation that is going on and the current agreement in contract that is going on as it relates to bringing the Chiefs to Kansas. Because again, the end of the stream is no longer the state general fund. It is the Attracting Professional Sports Teams Fund. So here is my motion, because of the impact that this will have, is to reverse the motion of raising that from 8 to 16 million, to pull that out, but then to replace that with the 25% that is not currently accounted for or currently promised in the Attracting Professional Sports Kansas Team Fund to go to this clubhouse model and any future increases that go along with it. Because right now, of this being the end of the stream, 100% of those dollars, only 75% are part of the equation with the Kansas City Chiefs right now. That 25% was set aside for the Kansas City Royals. That offer has expired. And so that will allow this 25% to go perpetually to the clubhouse model and continue to fund that ongoing going forward as iLottery and lottery increases, Mr. Chairman.
That's your motion?
That is my motion.
We have a second? Senator Cluse seconds. Senator Owens, I don't know what the total amount is on that 25%, but I was working also on the same premise you were, and I was hoping to direct some of those funds to, number one, the IDD pay raises that we just took care of earlier, also to our frail and elderly for our rest home, which we're having to add money to these every year, and it seems to me like if we had a steady stream, it would be very helpful. The other one that I had on the list was the mental health, $10 million that we've been doing for a number of years to the local hospitals that are taking care of some mental health beds. Then the employment first. I had suggested those 4 items is what I had been working on the 25%. So I don't know if there's a way we could kind of use these. I don't know what the total dollars, if there's enough to go around to both of these, but I had a similar proviso for that 25%. So I guess I should have been communicating with you and I, but I would hope that maybe we could add some of those that I had in mind and
Mr. Chairman, I'm
combination or something.
knowing that we're going to be meeting again, I'm happy to withdraw this motion and get something in writing. So I'm perfectly happy with it going to all of those items, right? Right now, I can tell you that just for context, the projected 27 estimate is about $12 million into that attracting professional sports team fund. So we're talking about $3 million in 27. However, we know that there are significant growth that is coming down the pike as we start to advertise iLottery, for example, and a number of those other increases. So I'll withdraw my motion for now. I will work with you, bring that back up with the appropriate language to make sure that we're able to address more items.
Thank you. That'd be great. Because, you know, I think all of us did not like cutting these budgets or lowering the amount of the increase, I guess is the best way to say that. And it's, if we could get a stream that was a little bit steadier, I think it would be very helpful with us and SGF going forward.
Yes, sir.
So thank you. Senator Owens, do you have any others? Okay. Senator Holscher? Okay. And I skipped over Senator Clinton, or Senator Peck, did you have some?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have, but are we focused on SGF, which I would guess would be our main focus? Because
Yes.
what I was looking at was not SGF. So it would be up to you. They're not really going to do anything for our bottom line. They are money that's in the state water plan fund. But, so it would be up to you. I could offer, they're not anything that I have a real big issue with. It's just that when we had the Agriculture Natural Resources Committee, these were somewhat controversial on a split vote. So at this time, I don't have.
You can go ahead. That's what we're doing, is we're trying to get everything cleaned up, and so go ahead.
And again, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have proviso language, but I'll be glad to explain.
Well, and you know, if you will go ahead and explain like we did with Senator Owens, maybe they can produce some language here, or if not, we can at least have them on the table. And like I say, we will meet one more time. So I know we've overworked staff. I mean, we got the greatest people here, and every one of us has had them doing work, and plus the House in their appropriations, and so they've done great. But so go ahead, Senator Peck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Deere has actually complained to me we're not working him hard enough. He's not. He's getting more than 3 hours of sleep a night. No, I'm kidding. Okay. Mr. Chairman, if anyone has their budget committee report on KDHE and Division of Environment for fiscal year 26, we added $100,000 state water plan fund for stream trash removal. This has been rolled forward for several years, and we were told that there are some large metallic items. Don't know what that is. Large metallic items. A vehicle, I don't know what, anyway, in the river, and so they're looking at having them removed, but they haven't. They just keep rolling this $100,000 forward. They are working to try to come up with an agreement with Friends of the Caw, and so I just thought, well, that's $100,000 in the state water plan fund that's just been rolling and rolling and rolling. So I thought, well, we could just remove it, and then if they do come up with something. So that would be one. And then, again, with KDHE Environment, we had in our committee an add of $1 million for contamination remediation, and this is in fiscal year 27. The committee vote was 6-5, so it was a split vote. And after the committee meeting, the committee member who made the motion came up to me and said, "You're probably going to strip that out, and if you do, that's okay with me." And so I thought I didn't, because it didn't seem like that was important. And then it seems like there was something else. These are in fiscal year 27. We added $225,000 again from the State Water Plan Fund for a water system regionalization feasibility study. I had several members that were not real happy because this was specific to a certain area. And I left it in because I saw it as a pilot program, but I thought because of the fact that it is something that was just thrown in and it's probably got a lot of merit. So that would be $225,000 for the state water plant fund. So those are the three with KDHE. And so I'll stop there and see what you want me to do, if you want me to just throw those out and then move on. But that covers that particular agency.
Does anyone need these in writing? Senator Petty?
Well, I have a question. So these were, remind me that this is funding through the State Water Plan Fund, and if these projects are removed, like the $100,000 for the stream trash removal, and wherever that trash is being removed, the reality is if it's in one place, it's going to move or it impacts the rest of the system. But this money then is going to be used how in the State Water Plan Fund?
Senator Peck?
Mr. Chairman, I have not followed up with staff because our fiscal analyst's wife had a child recently, and so he's been a little bit preoccupied. So I don't know, but originally when this session started, I was told that the State Water Plan Fund in all the different agencies, there's like 5 agencies that spend from the State Water Plan Fund, was over appropriated. But I haven't followed up since then to know if it still is over appropriated on our side. Don't know what the House has done. That's, to me, not really important. We do our thing, and then we'll get with the House and mesh them together. So to answer the question, it would remain in the State Water Plan Fund, maybe help reduce the deficit, or it could be appropriated to some other place.
Other questions for Senator Peck? Senator Peck?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The ending balance in the state water plan would still be a positive, but we're spending about $2 million more than we're bringing in. So we over appropriated compared to what we're bringing in, but we have a little bit of money in the bank if we absolutely had to, but can't do that very long. And just like the state budget, eventually you're in the tank.
Other questions for Senator Peck? I guess I would have a couple, Senator. First off, you said the 100,000 on the trash just goes back in, and the vote on that was close, you said?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have the vote on that particular one written down. So that, because of the fact that it was $100,000, no one was willing to raise much of a stink. But
Okay.
the fact that it's been rolled over for multiple years was something that I had committee members say, you know, I don't know. It's always interesting in hindsight, Mr. Chairman, how committee members will come to a chairman and individually, won't say something publicly, but they will say something like, well, I don't know why we did that, but.
Sure. Okay, and what about the 1 million on the remediation?
That was a split vote. They asked for, if I remember correctly, 1.8 million, and there was a motion to give them 1 million for the remediation, the contamination remediation. And again, the committee had a fairly lengthy, robust discussion, and the vote was 6-5.
And the remediation is for a city, a county, rural water, or what are we talking?
Mr. Chairman, I apologize. I would have to look back at my notes because I honestly didn't think that I would bring these forward today, so I have to look back to see what the remediation, and I don't know if any of the other committee members, because I do have 2 of the brightest committee members on the Ag Committee on this committee, and I don't know if they can help or remember anything, but if they're not, I'm going to take away that bright comment.
And then the last one was a $225,000 for the study in a particular area, and I heard just a little about that one or whatever, but was that vote even close, or?
Yes, it was close, but not 6-5. It seems like it was more like a 7-3, something like that.
No, that's why I wondered, so. I guess if you If everyone's all right without having this in writing, we can go ahead and vote on these. And let's do them one at a time. Senator Fagg?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the 225,000 at regionalization, I think the water area has got some plans larger than that will encompass this. So I think, to me, the 225 would be an easy one to give up with what I understand about the future plans there. The 100,000, I would be easy to give up on that. I'm just telling you so that I'm saying publicly where we're at with this. That was clean up in one area in Topeka, and we got a lot of areas in the state of Kansas to clean up. So I found it very easy to say okay to that 100,000. The other one, I'm not quite sure the details on that. So just want to let you know on those two of the three where I stood.
So you're okay removing them? Okay. Other questions? Senator Alley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To follow up on that, the 100,000 was to clean up some batteries that were dumped. Those were the large metal objects. Batteries were dumped in the river. And my question is, how come the county or the city wasn't participating to get those things removed? And we're waiting on the state to do that. So I think that would be my first question.
Okay, any other discussion? Senator, if you'd like to make your motion one at a time, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move that we delete the $100,000 for stream trash removal for fiscal year '26.
We have a motion. We have a second by Senator Fagg. Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
I think the motion carried. Senator Peck?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to skip to the easy one, and that would be the 225 state water plan funding to delete the $225,000 for the water system regionalization. This is in the Manhattan-Wamego corridor, Highway 24, to delete that to $225,000 expenditure for fiscal year '27.
Motion. We have a second by Senator Fagg. Questions and discussion? So I would ask this, because I know there's some bad water over in that area. Did I understand you that there are some other programs that would be available for this, Senator Peck?
Thank you, Mr. I will defer to Senator Fagg, but yes.
Senator Fagg?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I was the one that made that comment.
Okay.
So this 225 is kind of a pilot program in just that area. And I think the Water Office has some bigger plans that would encompass that in the future. So we're kind of doing a little project when we're planning a bigger project down the road.
Okay. Other questions? Seeing none, all in favor, aye? Opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Senator Peck?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll go ahead if you wish and make this motion. I really, for the benefit of the committee, would prefer to be able to better explain the $1 million contamination.
But you want to wait till their next meeting?
That would probably be preferable.
Okay.
That way we're flying a little more with our eyes open. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Did you have any others?
Well, I was going to get with some of our staff regarding bids. We had put in there some money to move our CD1 salaries from 62.5 to 80 and 80,000, 62,500 to 80,000, and probably look at pulling that back. But again, I was wanting to visit with staff to learn how much that would actually benefit us, because that's one of those things that I personally would like to see us do, not pull it back. But we've all got to have skin in the game. It's going to hurt all of us a little bit to get this budget to where it's palatable, to where we can get it across the Senate floor. We've got work to do. So that is one that I'm just going to throw out. And this is something we talked about, so it's not in a committee that I chaired. So I don't know if you want me to talk about it or wait till another day.
The bids?
That's one I did chair, so
Right.
that one I would like to gather a little more information.
Right, so for the next meeting, you'll bring that, okay.
And then I have some other ideas on some other areas that aren't in the arena where I was chair of a standing or budget subcommittee.
Go ahead.
Okay, I still think, Mr. Chairman, and we talked about this somewhat, but the 10 million add that we added for contract labor at Larned for fiscal year '27, because it's down the road, it'll help our bottom line. I just don't like for us to admit, and Mr. Chairman, that's the way I look at it, we're admitting that we don't plan on having staff hired. So we're going to continue to use contract labor, and it's really expensive. So because of the fact we're already adding in 25 million, then we added another 10, and that would be something that the chairman of that committee has weighed in on in the past. If he wishes to weigh in, that's fine, but that was another area I was looking at. And I must confess, I felt like I was in school this last weekend. I allowed other things to get in the way of my studies and didn't really come up with as nearly the efficiencies and reductions in spending that I had hoped. Business and personal and church and travel got in the way.
So, Senator Owens, is that your committee, correct? Larner State Hospital? Do you want to comment on this, why you thought it was needed? And
You give me a little bit of added context, Senator Peck, because I was absolutely not paying attention as you monotoned on.
Senator Peck?
With all the love in my heart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that compliment. I was simply saying the 10 million that we had added during our committee discussion on top of, I don't want to be monotone here, on top of the 25 million that had been added was something that I still not comfortable that we should add in at this time. They may come back to us next year and we absolutely have to. I don't know, Mr. Chairman, but it just seems like we're already admitting defeat. And as a fan of the Kansas City Chiefs, I never admit defeat till the clock runs out.
And we did vote this in, so.
Yeah.
Senator Owens?
No, and I'm happy to opine on that. As you guys can imagine, after just cutting $20 million, my phone and email is kind of blowing up all over the place. So I'm trying to deal with some of that as well. So my apologies for not being focused in. So that $10 million, the whole point in that is they had actually asked for north of $30 million. And by allowing them, they were spending about $50 million on average every year on contract nursing. The idea by not giving them the 30, cutting it back to 10 would allow them to get through half the year and actually into 3/4 of the year. So then they can come back and still be able to meet their requirement while justifying their need for the remainder of the year. So I definitely support that 10 million still being in there. Again, just giving the time for them to actually come back and request the remainder that they had requested.
Senator Peck?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I knew that would be the explanation because that was the explanation before. And yes, the committee did vote, but yes, the committee also had voted previously on the cuts, the adds, and then we pulled back on. If we are able to hire some nursing staff at Larned that would be state employees, we could save that $10 million. And that's where my thought is to tell the agency, you go find your employees. Because if they've got 10 million in their budget, it's a little, if I'm in the agency head, it's a little more challenging for me to get aggressive in trying to find employees because I know, well, I've got the money for contract labor. If I don't have the money for contract labor, I'm going to try a little harder to try to come up with employees. Not that they're not trying hard. I don't know. But just, so that's my school of thinking. And so I just thought I would throw that out, and I may be one of, I don't know how many are here, but one on a hill by himself.
Okay, would you like to make your motion?
If you would like for me to, I'll be glad to make a motion. So I would make a motion that for fiscal year '27, we delete that $10 million ad that we put in for Larned State Hospital for contract labor.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Seeing none, it fails. Oh, Senator Erickson seconds. Discussion. Senator Owens.
I actually really like your logic, and I would think that your logic would work incredibly well in the private sector. The problem and the challenge is that what it will actually do, and again, I know we're digging into this. I've had this budget for approximately 5 weeks now, and I have a few ideas that I want to run by the agency on other possible solutions. The problem is what will ultimately happen is we won't have the nurses, therefore they won't be able to accept the patients. And they're already backed up by many, many months in being able to accept patients out there. I think we've got to have a broader conversation over Larned State Hospital as a whole. And just the sheer lack of nurses in Western Kansas, that the pool that they can draw from. And is there a feasible solution to this? I'm not sure that there is or not. But I think that at this point in time, I'm comfortable just leaving that $10 million in there.
Other discussion? Senator Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question that deals with this and several other issues we've talked about along this area. What does or do the rural health transformation funds play into this? I mean, we're in the first year of receiving that, over $221 million that can be used, by the way, for behavioral health. Do we know how that money is being used?
Senator Owens.
No, currently we do not. And I know that that's a conversation right now. And I'm not fully versed or read in on who actually has the authority on that money. It seems like to me that the executive branch is the one that holds the cards and how that money is being spent, how it's going to be delivered. Could that be a possible solution? Certainly it could be. What I will also say, however, is that those patients that need to be in Larned are currently sitting in our hospitals and in our jails. And the longer they sit there, that actually costs us about $100 a day extra as well as a state. We passed that law last year or the year before. And so, like I said, there's no great solution. I'm 5 weeks into trying to brainstorm through it and work with my subcommittee on solutions or ideas. But I think it's going to be a much larger conversation next year.
Other questions? Senator Erickson.
Just to follow up on that, I think that could be a lot of what we're already appropriating SGF for. I mean, we just gave the Kansas Hospital Association group 10 million that this 221 million could be used for. So how much, to Senator Peck's point, if we're providing it through our SGF money, there's no incentive for them to use it toward that. They'll use it and supplant, that money with SGF. So I'd just like to know more about who's allocating those funds, what they can be used for, and why aren't we using it for some of these purposes? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Other questions, Senator Petty.
I think that the Rural Health Transformation Fund is a good conversation, not at this point in our budget process. However, we do, the Secretary of the Department of Health and Environment, she's the lead spokesman on this, so we could always have her come make a presentation. But one of the things about that fund is that it is new and innovative, and so to think that it could replace our state general fund dollars, I think is pretty short-sighted, but it can enhance what we're doing and potentially have an impact for our hospitals in the rural area. I want to speak to the 10 million contract labor, which is very woefully below what it's costing us at Larned. The one possible, help for Larned is the opening of our hospital in Sedgwick County. That may be somewhat helpful there. But I applaud Senator Peck's optimism, but I think that this hospital and the KDHE have been working tirelessly the last 3 years to come up with ways to attract staff, keep staff, incentivize staff, and they've made, slight headways and then other things come up. But this $10 million is not enough money. I mean, and it's not going to be enough money in '27. We're going to continue to have this cost unless you want to think about building a new hospital someplace else. And that has its cost as well. But I having sat on this budget for now a number of years, I applaud them for all they're doing. And I think there are no simple answers to this problem.
Senator Fagg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple things that I wanted to add to the conversation, because I've been around this in years past. Housing is an issue in Larned. Nursing programs are being done in western Kansas trying to help with the nursing situation. That doesn't happen overnight. So they've kind of set some cornerstones into things going on. The new facility in Wichita, how that's going to do. I would say bottom line, they would be hiring if they could. This thing that we're talking on, the nursings, that's a last resort. And I mean, you've got to have that to take care of what you can. So I applaud Senator Owens for how he's addressed this area the best that we can today. Thank you.
Other comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Oh, excuse me, Senator Alley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the questions that I've always heard, but we never got an answer, and is without contract labor, without these contract nurses, what would be the capacity of Larned and Osawatomie if we just used the nurses that we can get? Do we know?
Senator Owens.
Yeah, roughly about 50% of what we currently have, because that is roughly the numbers. They fluctuate up and down, but we're running on roughly a 50% contract nursing staffing at Larned State Hospital. And so if you took away half, and remember, most of this is completely pushed down by the federal government through CMS. They're the ones that mandate all the staffing ratios and all this other stuff. But it would reduce capacity by 50%, which, again, with 9-month waiting lists, just puts the pressure on our hospitals and our jails.
Senator Alley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If we didn't use contract labor and we had to reduce our capacity by that, how much of that will be taken up with new capacity in Wichita? I mean, are we going to be able, in this new capacity in Wichita, is it going to be able to take these without using contract labor?
Senator Owens.
So that's a really great question. I think the Wichita Hospital is going to be a good case study in being able to determine our ability to hire the staffing that we need in Wichita. Obviously, you're pulling from a much larger employee base there. That is only a 104-bed facility. And so while there is optimism that it will reduce at least the waiting times getting into Larned, I don't even think Wichita at 104 beds is going to be enough to eliminate it altogether. But I am curious to see how staffing comes to fruition, because it may justify, right, if we're spending $50 million a year in contract nurses in Larned, and by the way, another $7 million a year in Osawatomie. Again, Osawatomie is close enough to the northeast, they can draw people, but Larned specifically $50 million a year. We could build another hospital somewhere in a population center and scale back Larned as a consideration. So I think time will tell.
Senator Alley.
We also know that in our counties, some of our counties have overbuilt their facilities or jails. I know in Sumner County, they're housing 100 inmates that are from out of county. And they're doing it for dollars. They're doing it to increase their budgets. Have we looked at those type of facilities to maybe make up some of the difference?
Senator Owens.
Well, yes, but remember, at our jail facilities, they're not getting treatment. They're not getting the restorative treatment they need. Actually, our largest mental health hospital in the state is in the Sedgwick County Jail. If you want to get right down to it, they have an entire wing that houses those inmates, many of which are simply waiting on a bed at Larned currently. So that's why we passed the legislation last year that we as a state, through the Kansas Department of Aging and Disability Services, pay jails and hospitals $100 a day for people that need to be in Larned or Osawatomie that there's no open bed for. So that they're already fulfilling that need. They're actually already being compensated for that, but those patients are not receiving treatment there.
Thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none, all in favor, aye? Opposed?
No.
Motion fails. Are you done, Senator Peck?
Mr. Chairman, I've got several, but I'm confident they would not pass the committee, so I'm not going to spend the committee's time. I could get this budget under control really quick and have a lot of unhappy people, but it wouldn't be taxpayers, at least a majority of taxpayers. So I'm going to stand down at this time, but I do have some I'll bring up
Okay.
at the next meeting.
Thank you, Senator Peck. I believe that there's sandwiches out there. I don't know if we want to break and do that, because how many do you have, Senator?
I have one, maybe two, sir,
Okay.
and I would be just fine bringing those at the next one. They're not for an increase in any funding.
There are decreases?
They are policy discussions.
Oh, okay.
Elimination of policy discussions. Yes, extracting out provisos that are policy conversations.
Oh, okay. Well, Senator Fagg, do you have some? How many do you have? Okay, and Senator Cluse? I thought you had several. Okay. We're going to take, let's take 10 minutes, and you can grab your sandwich and come in. And I'd like to thank Penniger and Smith and Associates and the Kansas Contractors Association for providing lunch for the committee and staff today. Thank you. We're going to recess for 10 minutes. I'd recognize Senator Clem, and he has, oh, sorry. Yeah, so you're going to wait on yours till the next meeting? Okay. And you said it was just some, okay, 2 of them. Okay. Senator Fagg, did you have any? Okay. Senator Alley.
I didn't turn my mic on, I'll do it again.
Okay.
I recommend we delete $1 million SGF from the $2 million that we had recommended. This leaves $1 million in SGF for Level Up Kansas for 2027.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Senator Fagg seconds. Any questions or discussions? Senator Petty.
Senator, would you remind me about the Level Up program?
Senator Alley.
This Level Up program was started by Associated General Contractors. They go all throughout the state, helping these students become contractors. And I think he's passing. Oh, that's not what you're passing out. Okay. So anyway, but it is a good program. But at this point, since we're needing to look for some funding, this is one recommendation I'll make. That's one idea.
Question, Senator Petty.
I know you just talked about it's working with students, but is it run through what department?
Senator Alley.
Commerce Department.
Thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none, all in favor, aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Did you have any others, Senator Alley? Okay. So, and Senator Fagg did not have any, so Senator Cluse. Senator Cluse.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this has to do with the interest that's occurred on the budget stabilization fund, rainy day fund here. So we're going to add language to direct SGF to retain interest accrued to the budget stabilization fund when the actual tax receipts in the previous fiscal year exceeds 20% of the balance in the budget stabilization fund for the year 27, 28, 29, and 30. And do we need to do this separate? And then we're just going to do this together. Add language to transfer 50% of the amount that tax-only receipts exceeds the consensus revenue estimates to the budget stabilization fund to be certified by the director of the Division of Budget to the Director of Legislative Research for years 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. So essentially, this is taking that interest and retaining it, which is give or take 85 million annually, and keeping it in the SGF, so it'll show in that ending balance. However, and that's only when the previous fiscal year exceeds the 20% of the balance of that budget. So hypothetically 10 billion, in the budget that's 2 billion. So it would keep that flat, but then It would add the language to transfer if it's 50% of the amount of that tax-only receipts exceeds the consensus revenue estimate to the budget stabilization fund, when that is certified for those years. So there is still the potential that would go up instead of remaining flat, if that makes sense. So that would be my motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Senator Owens seconds. Senator Owens.
I want to make sure I understand the practical implications of what we're talking about. So maybe it'll help me just to read it out loud. Add language to direct state general fund to retain interest accrued on the budget stabilization fund when tax receipts in the previous fiscal year exceed 20% of the balance in the stabilization fund. So let's say there's $2 billion in the stabilization fund currently, and it earns $2 million in interest. So if our state revenues or our state expenses exceed $10 billion, then we're going to sweep 50% of that over. Am I understanding? I'm trying to make sense of this. So we're going to keep the interest if we exceed that, which we would exceed that right now. Is that a fair statement?
Senator Clues.
Yeah, are you on the top one here?
Yeah, so let's just talking about the top one. So
Yeah, so that's my understanding is it's about 85 million a year.
Okay.
So that would be in the SGF. We would retain that. Also kind of protects just trying to get in there and use that interest money like we did the interest on the ARPA money. It'll remain in there and it'll go show in the ending balance.
Senator Owens.
okay, so the top one, for year 27, we know our expenses currently exceed what the balance is. So we're going to sweep the interest and add that as revenue. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes.
Okay, so then on the bottom one, then we're also going to add language to transfer 50% of the amount that the tax-only receipts exceed the consensus revenue estimates to the budget stabilization fund. I'm not quite following how that one works. A little more explanation, if you will.
So
Senator Clues. Senator Clues.
So my understanding, yes, 50% of the amount if it's above, and then that would keep that, well, it would allow for that 2 billion that's flat to have monies added to it if we're above that, the receipts exceed the consensus revenue estimate. So 50% of that would be put over there.
Senator Fagg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think staff could give us a good explanation of that.
Okay. Dylan, would you mind?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think there's a couple issues being commingled. With the will of the committee, I'll talk through my understanding of this and the revisor's office. If they have something different, they just let me know. So it appears that the first one is similar to the position that is currently in the House, okay? Which means that when your actual tax receipts, okay, are, when the balance in the stabilization fund exceeds 20% of actual tax receipts, then the budget stabilization fund stops retaining its interest and it stops building on itself, and instead those dollars go to the state general fund. Okay, so, and that's one provision. But the effect of that provision would mean that the budget stabilization fund would stop growing, okay, because it's no longer retaining its own interest. So the second portion of this proviso is similar to what we've seen happen in several years in the past. And so, of course, we produce a consensus revenue estimate that we were going to say we're going to get $10 billion in tax receipts this year. But often we get a little bit less, or sometimes we get a little bit more. So in the situation in which you would get a little bit more, 50% of that excess would be deposited into the budget stabilization fund. So there would be some mechanism for the budget stabilization fund to continue to grow. That is my understanding. I would note on the second one, that is something that has been in law previously and has been, sometimes enacted via the appropriations bill, sometimes not. And so this would simply seem to extend those provisions through 2030. The first one would be a new item that I have seen in a House proposal, but is not currently part of law.
Darlene, do you mind answering questions or any questions for Darlene? Senator Petty.
So Dylan, on the second paragraph, are you saying this is currently in law?
It is not currently in law. It has been part of law in previous fiscal years, and we have made transfers
Which
subsequent to
one?
it.
Which fiscal year has it been?
I believe fiscal year 2025, we made a transfer. Fiscal year 2024. 24, we made a transfer.
So,
I'd have to pull my certification letters, honestly, ma'am.
well, I mean, I see 26 here, so that's why I'm just wondering,
Mm-hmm.
are we just missing it? Anyway, so, so since I'm seeing 26 here, then we actually would be able, we've done this for 26.
No, ma'am, this would create the language in 26. It is currently not law for fiscal year 2026. And I'm looking at the revisers. I'm getting a nod.
So in 26, if this language went in 26, walk that through then how 26 would work.
Certainly. So in the current fiscal year, what that would mean is if we get to the end of fiscal year and we get down and we determine we got $10.5 billion, okay, in actual tax receipts at the end after everything is certified, then you would have $500 million in excess receipts and $250 million will be pulled off. I do not anticipate we will beat it by $500 million. Normally in the current fiscal year, we're pretty close. And this is taxes only. I just want to be a little bit more specific on that. There's a portion of SGF receipts that's like agency earnings and interest, okay? And that's excluded. So this is, historically, we've done taxes only, which are your regular excise taxes plus income tax, sales tax, stuff like that.
So that would have to be an amount that exceeded what the consensus revenue estimates were.
And there's only a transfer if it exceeds.
And it'd be 50% of that.
That is correct, ma'am.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions, Senator Fagg?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When you say FY 27, 28, 29, 30, I wonder what the thought process was with that, or that just automatically falls off out there at that point? I just wonder what the thought was.
Donna?
Well, there's a limited number of years that you can address in an appropriations bill, because obviously in an appropriations bill, you cannot make permanent law. And this is going out already, quite some distance into the future via an appropriations bill. And so it's just sort of giving a 5-year time frame.
5 years.
For this.
Senator Peck?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Without this language that has been added and is looking to be added on the Budget Stabilization Fund, what is the law when the Budget Stabilization Fund passed, that law passed, what was the formula by which money was put into the fund? So if we don't do anything, I guess that's my question. What would go into the Budget Stabilization Fund?
So there are no clear funding mechanisms for the Budget Stabilization Fund. The various funding mechanisms that have been instituted have been done via the appropriations bills.
Okay, thank you.
Interest, it does retain its own interest. That's, David's correct. If you consider that a funding mechanism, it does retain its own interest. So that's one funding mechanism, but there's no mechanism for other transfers in.
Senator Clinton?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the first one, the balance of the Budget Stabilization Fund, say it's at $2 billion. We bring in receipts of typically what, 10 billion?
Sure.
So we're always going to be above that. We would then scrape that interest and pull that interest into the SGF. Is that fair?
That's correct.
All right, thank you, sir.
If I might clarify.
Yes.
SGF receipts grow the same way the rest of the economy grows. And so if the budget stabilization fund is not growing because interest receipts are not going into it, and if consensus revenue estimates were consistently right at it, you would have future years in which you do not, where it would retain its interest. Because anytime that balance in the budget stabilization fund falls below 20% of SGF receipts, you would not have that transfer in those cases.
Senator Owens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I am pulling up the profile as I see it right now. Most recent profile that was sent. Looks like the growth in that budget stabilization fund was roughly $100 million from 26 to 27. So the practical application of this is, if I'm looking back, before we started this meeting, Senate Ways and Means was at $78 million above last year's spending. We've cut, I want to say, roughly around $21 million sitting here. So that would drop us down to, 56 million, let's say. This would transfer 100 million effectively, which then creates less of a deficit spend for the 2027 than we're currently projected for. That's what we're accomplishing, correct?
Mr. Chairman, with your permission.
Yes.
That is correct. So what it does is it adjusts the revenue side of the ledger.
Right.
So it creates a lower ending balance distortion.
Yep. Okay.
Imbalance.
Mr. Chairman.
Other questions? Senator Peck.
Questions are finished with Mr. Deere.
Yes.
We
Oh,
are,
if you're done with them, yeah.
I don't need him and no
Okay.
one else did either. This does two things. So I'm asking that we divide the question. They may both pass, but I don't support one. I do support the other. So I'm asking if the chair would divide the question. It's up to you, Mr. Chair.
I will ask the senator that made the motion, Senator Cluse.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Which one don't you like?
Senator Peck.
Mr. Chairman, I do not like the top one. Why are we going to try to prop up the state general fund so we look good by spending more, by keeping the interest? The budget stabilization fund was created for a purpose. We never know what may happen. I remember September 11th, the economy went in the tank. It was a real challenge for anyone in the legislature in the 2002 session to adjust the budget. We didn't have a budget stabilization fund. Had we had one at that time, we wouldn't have faced nearly the challenges as a legislature that we did. So to answer the question, the top one, I don't even know why we're considering that, other than it just props up, makes it look like we're not spending as much more than we're bringing in as we are. The bottom one adds money to the budget stabilization fund. So I like that. So that's the answer to, that was a long answer to a short question.
Senator Cluse.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I see three things. So yeah, it does help the profile, but on the end imbalance, it also helps kind of protect that money so we don't try to get that interest like we did with the ARPA interest. And then third, it still allows us to keep building, although that's flat. When we exceed the consensus revenue, then it still builds on that base amount. So I would say take it as one.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Senator Cluse, would you like to make your motion?
Yes, I make my motion.
We have a motion. We have a second. Senator Owens had seconded. Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? No. Motion carries. You had one more? Starbucks. David's go. Senator Cluse.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is a motion to delete the 6.1 million that we have for the grocery store and the Star bonds. That would be in 27, which came into play when we did the sales tax exemption on the food. So they're making their bond payments, and so we'll free up that 6.1 million. So I would move that we delete that.
We have a motion, we have a second. Second by Senator Owens. Okay, discussion, Senator Owens.
Yeah, if you could explain that. I don't know exactly what I seconded, but I wanted you to re-explain what we're deleting here.
Senator Cluse.
Okay, there's 6.1 million in bond obligation for those grocery stores that we put into play when we took the, if I understand this right, or when we added took the grocery food tax away. So they've been making those payments, and so it's just sitting there. So we're saying delete that and bring that back in.
Question, Senator Petty.
Senator, wasn't that 6 million? So these were grocery stores that were impacted. They were in Star bond areas. They were impacted by the when we finally took away the sales tax on food. And this is to make up for, so they would not have to eat that loss.
Senator Cluse. Senator Cluse.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So a little bit of clarity would be that there's actually existing monies that come in that would cover that bonding should something happen, but it frees this 6.1 million up. Right, and I mentioned they've been making their payments.
Senator Petty.
Okay, I just want to, so they're making their payments, but one of the concerns have been with Star bonds is being able to be on time and be paid off in the amount of time that the Star bonds window was set up for. So this money that currently is in the budget was to, I'm trying to see if I'm correct about that, was to make up for what had been counted on as part of the sales tax going to pay off those Star bonds. And then when we removed that sales tax on food, that was no longer there. Is that correct?
Senator Cluse.
Yes, so to make up, thank you, Mr. Chairman, to make up that revenue, that's why it was put in play. But to the second would be that there are other resources to cover that bonding if there was failure to pay.
Senator Petty, I'll just add to that that they are currently up to date on their Star bond payments without this $6.1 million. They are servicing the star bond payments. So that's why this is being removed, because there's no need in the state paying in 6 million so they can get their bond paid sooner. I mean, they're current. If they weren't current, and I think that was the fear when we originally put this money in, was that they were going to come up short. They have not. And so that's why this money is going to be removed.
Thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none, all in favor, aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Senator Cluse, did you have any others? Actually, we'll have to wait till, because we have caucus in here in about 2 minutes, and Senator Petty has her caucus. So we are going to adjourn for today, and we will meet. I'll have to just make an announcement around our floor work. So with that, we are adjourned.